Now, I guess the question is, do you think Sporting KC can capitalize on this and actually turn it into something? What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of No Other Pod. I'm Jimmy, along with my good buddy Daniel Kooser. And Dan, the streak has ended. Maybe not in the way that we had wanted, but Sporting Kansas City's consecutive loss streak in competitive matches dating back to September 2024 is now over.
Here we are.
Now, the winless streak continues, but...
Right. That's a whole different thing. We don't got to talk about it. We're full. We're in a good spot now, right? We're turning the corner, right? Tell me, right?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was surprised at the level of positivity I saw on the Reddit when I was just peeking around, seeing how people were talking about it. I was like, oh, this is not what I expected. But
there was positivity.
There was some positivity.
Cool.
So that's a little different, but not everybody. There's a little the Debbie Downers, but
I was slightly positive because I had myself a little. I gotta tell you, maybe I'm a bad vegan for this, but I had some buffalo cauliflower, and I'm like, okay, maybe there's egg in this batter. I don't know, but hey, I don't have to know.
Or a little butter in the buffalo sauce, but
don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't.
Don't ask. If you don't know, then it's not real.
Oh, there's meat, you say? No, don't ask. No,
and by buffalo cauliflower, I mean buffalo chicken wings.
No, I got to tell you, it's I. The resident vegan food guy and trying all these options, right? So it's like there really isn't any options at Sporting. I got to tell you.
Well, I was going to say, the Current had their first game of the week, which make sure you listen to Currently on KCSN Soccer. And if you want to talk about a team that can win and score goals, that's that team. But
I had some hummus, bro. I got that
a new place
from that new place, and their pita chips and the hummus came with my favorite Kalamata olives, and also had some pickles on there. And I asked Marissa, I'm like, you're going to eat your Kalamata olives? She's like, yes, quit eyeballing my Kalamata olives. I can't help it. They're delicious.
Baba's Pantry is
that's one
place. And it's a Palestinian cafe, which is very cool. And man, Middle Eastern food is my absolute favorite type of food on the planet. So
who knew you could get it at a soccer game or a sporting event in general? I'm very pleased. And if you're trying to stay somewhat healthy, I guess, it's like, hey, I'll get some hummus at a freaking game. Why not?
Yeah.
They also have some Brussels sprouts nachos I want to try next time. Very excited.
It looks good. I will say, this obviously you'll break down the game and everything.
And all the food.
Currently, and all the food. I have been in the, now year plus that CPKC has been open. I have been very pleased with the culinary offerings at that stadium.
It's insane.
Crushing it.
If the team was shit, I'd be like, hey, at least the food's not.
Right. I mean,
that's why Sporting sucks sometimes, because I'm like, well, the food's also kind of shit.
CPKC, I think, they had the advantage, obviously, or the Current, they had the advantage of looking at what's worked and what hasn't over the years for Sporting. And there was a while where, Sporting had, we've talked about it, local food, local drinks in the stadium. And when they switched, I think the Current probably saw that little bit of backlash, and they've done the exact opposite and have done really well to make sure that they have local restaurants and local drink vendors in there, and it's gone really well. So,
I know we're talking about that a lot because that was kind of our, it was opening week, it was opening game for them this weekend, and we were both in attendance, and it's just kind of top of mind for me, even though we did the double feature. We went to 2 games that day. It was a long day. How ambitious, very ambitious I had oxycodone packed. Don't you worry about me.
Yeah, it's a little tougher for you even than me, obviously, with the surgery recovery. But it was a fun game or a fun day, and I'm glad. And I guess hopefully anybody who's listening wasn't too impacted by the crazy winds that we had Friday. I don't know if you had them in Topeka the same way.
Oh yeah,
it was.
I went for a walk and about got blown over that day.
Yeah, I mean, we had in Lee Summit where I live. Gusts of just about 70 miles an hour. I saw a video in Blue Springs, just one town over, where giant ass trees are falling on top of cars.
Yeah.
St. Louis got hit even worse. They got like legitimate tornadoes.
Dude, the further into Missouri you go, like it seems like the worse it always is. It's like, holy shit.
It feels to me, now this is how people get in trouble, because this is like confirmation bias of like, oh, it never happens to me. But just to me, and I'm curious if people who live in other parts of the metro, if they feel the opposite, because I live obviously in the southern part of the metro. To me, it's always seems like the north lane gets hit. Like it's always like the North Kansas City, north of downtown, like Liberty, like they get the worst part of the storms. And every time there's a storm, I'm always like, man, I'm glad I don't live up there because they're getting hit again. But I wonder if they feel that same way, or if they're like, oh, it always seems like, Olathe's getting hit or whatnot. So
maybe. I was sitting right here where I'm at in my living room Friday, and I looked out my door. I was like, man, the trees are crazy. And I saw a big ass limb fall off my tree and dangle on our power lines. And I was like,
oh, no.
I'm like, am I about to witness our power go out? And it ended up just falling off the power line. And I'm like, that's scary. Strong ass power line.
Yeah, that's scary. I mean, I was worried about damage to my house, shingles. I have a new fence, thankfully, but it's solid. Like there's no gaps for the wind to go through. So I was a little worried about that, but no damage. I did learn something though about physics. This can be our science section of the podcast. Because I have one of my bathrooms in my house I don't use as much as I got sort of like my main go-to bathroom, and then there's another one. And I went in there and I lifted up the toilet seat, and the water in the toilet bowl was like lower than it had been. And I was like, that's weird. And I'm looking around my first, like, hopefully there's not a leak. I'm looking around, there's no leaks. I go under, look on the floor beneath it because I can have access to it. No signs of leaks anywhere. And I'm like, that's weird. I do a little research, and apparently, because all of you have like a sewer vent that goes out the roof of your house where like some of the gases can escape, when you flush it. Apparently in high wind storms, as wind blows across your roof or across the open sewer vent, it can create a suction that essentially sucks water out of toilets. So who knew? This physics is crazy. And I thought I had a leak. Turns out if you opened your toilet and water was just mysteriously lower and you hadn't flushed it, it could be because the windstorms create a siphoning effect that sucks water out of your toilet if you have an open sewer vent on your roof. So
that's insane.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Didn't know. That's much better than me having a leak, because I've had, Lord knows, plenty of plumbing issues in this house. But
man, but dude, Saturday was a great day. I mean, it was cold. It got cold again.
It was cold. I was really worried Friday night that, because I don't know if it was this way in Topeka too, but did it smell like fire everywhere?
Oh, bro, it's because the highway caught fire.
Well, there's fires. There's also fires in Oklahoma, and the winds were blowing up from the south toward the north. So I stepped out to let my dog out Friday night, and it smelled like all of Leaf Summit was on fire. She starts sneezing immediately. If you look up online, the air quality index is in the upper unhealthy range. I was worried they weren't going to be able to play the current game if it stayed that way overnight. But thankfully, the wind shifted overnight, blew it all away. It just made the entire CPKC stadium smell like cow shit. I don't know if you noticed that either. It smelled like
100%. I was like, I thought only Topeka had a Frito-Lay. What's the smell here? Anyone who's been to Topeka knows that you get off the turnpike and there's a poop smell. And that's Frito-Lay, folks. You're putting those chips in your body.
Yep. So, but it was a fun day. So, and
it was, man. I hit up Minsky's afterwards, a dispensary, and then also a escape room.
I saw you and Chip and some other people did an escape room. You escaped in less than half an hour.
Oh, we're fantastic. We're really good at that. Can you
hear LG dishwasher?
Jesus freaking Christ! Why do washers and dryers have to go, the laundry is done?
They recognized that LG ding from anywhere because I got this.
Unbelievable. Now, LG ovens will just be like, beep, and the freaking laundry's like, come and fold your clothes.
The first time my LG laundry machine did that, it did the first few notes, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then it did the next few notes, and I was like, oh, it's still going. And then it went on for another 10 seconds after that, and I was like, this is a whole ass song.
Now you can turn that off, but also I'm like, kind of like it. No, I'm not going to turn it off.
Soothing.
I don't hate it. Now I did turn it off on the dishwasher because I don't need that going off in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because I do run it in the middle of the night. But no, of course we escaped this thing. I guess the record was 23 minutes, and I'm like, damn, we're really close to the record.
Yeah.
So that's too bad.
But that's pretty cool. But no, it was a fun day of soccer. Like I said, check out currently later this week here on KCSN Soccer. If you're subscribed to the pod or the YouTube channel
tomorrow,
you'll get it.
And if you didn't, you ought to go check out that interview with Michelle Prince. Did you listen to that by chance?
It's in my podcast queue. I've been real busy. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but
she had a ball, man. She just had a fun time. And you saw Jacob Bartlett at the game, who said that it was his first freaking interview and that we made it such a fun time. And it's like, yes, we did, Jacob. Yes, we did, because we love you.
I wasn't sure, like, we had just done the interview with him, and so I was going to grab coffee. He obviously wasn't in the lineup because he played for SKC2 the day before, but I was going to grab coffee, and I saw him and Ian James and a couple other players, and I waved to him, thinking like, oh, maybe say hi. And he waved to me. And he came up and we talked for a little bit, and I was like, "What was that?" You guys it up. We did a little bro hug, but
I love that, and I'm slightly jelly.
I was like, did you have a good time? He's like, oh, it was great, and I was like, was that your first podcast interview? And he was like, actually, yeah, it was. And, it was like, oh, you did awesome. Like, we just try to have a good time. And he's like, oh, y'all made it really easy and really fun. So it's good to hear.
Man, this kid, I love him. I'm a big fan. It was unfortunate not to see him out there, but it was also very chilly and snowing. So he's probably like, yeah, I'm fine.
That was crazy. I mean, I don't think that was in the forecast because it was colder earlier in the day. And then I'm driving to Children's Mercy Park, and it's like 5:30, and I'm like on my way there, and I park a little bit before 6, and right as I park, it starts lightly sleeting, and I'm like, that's weird. Didn't expect that. And then I get to the press box like 20 minutes later, I pull out my phone because I'm like, okay, it's starting to get like bigger snowflakes. And I see like a KSHB meteorologist, and he's like, yeah, this just formed right over us out of nowhere. And no one's going to be here for a few hours.
Dude, I'm Dan the weatherman. I look at the weather. I know when it's going to be like that because I plan my shoe game accordingly. Mm-hmm. You know this about me. Mm-hmm. Marissa knows too. She's very fortunate that I do this. Mm-hmm. Well, she goes, why didn't you tell me it was going to have precipitation today? I said, because it wasn't in the forecast.
Did she say precipitation? No. She's in the technical meteor. Why didn't you tell me that there was a 74% chance of precipitation?
She goes, I wouldn't have worn my suede dunks had I known this, And I was like, I wouldn't have let you.
Yeah. I got lucky, and just by total, it was more of a fashion choice, but I happened to wear my waterproof Nike boots. And I actually thought, I was like, it's not going to rain. Why do I need to wear these? And I was like, because they look good with this outfit. And I'm glad I did.
You know what I wear now is whatever's easy, because my wife has to tie my shoes like a fucking child.
You ever have, when you were a kid, those and one slip-ons that people had for a while?
Of course I did. I made the basketball team in tryouts with those.
And you wore and one slip?
It's what I had, bro. It's all I had. And I was like, okay, time to get new shoes.
The last time I tried out for a basketball team was 7th grade. Did not make it. They weren't doing cuts until after the second day, and I got cut after the first day. So there's a riddle for you. Figure that out.
That sucks. You didn't even get a call back.
And I also wore Converse, like high tops, and I was like, I don't know what. But no, I knew, and then we'll take our break after this. But I knew the coach because he had actually coached at my elementary school, and so I did the tryouts. I'm self-aware enough. I could tell after the first day. I was like, things did not go well. And so I went to him after, or the next day. I went to him in the morning. I was like, hey, coach, we were talking. And then I was like, before I go, like, is there any reason for me to come back for day 2? I know there's no cuts, but is there any reason I should come back? And he was like, not really.
That's too bad.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, why waste each other's time?
Right.
I made it 1 year, man, and it's, dude, when you make a basketball team and there's like dozens of people trying out, it feels pretty freaking good when you make like a team of 11 people, it's fun times.
So, well, let's take our break, and we'll come back and we'll talk Sporting KC soccer. So,
right.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your number one source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story. Like Bryan Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Bryan Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner impossible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
Dude, so I took my handicapped ass to a movie last week for the first time in a long time.
Oh, yeah? What movie?
Captain America.
I still haven't seen it.
Pulled the trigger. It's been a bit, and I think
Did you enjoy it?
I had a good time. And that's all you can ever ask for Marvel movies. I mean, a lot of movies that have gotten slammed, I've always still had a good time, right?
Yeah.
My wife, on the other hand, instantly fell asleep, and I said, "Did you enjoy your $8 nap?"
That is funny. I don't think I've ever fallen asleep in a movie. The only Marvel movie that I can think of where I legitimately left being like, I actively disliked that movie and am mad that I saw it. No, not even that. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Oh, see, I couldn't leave because I was in 4D for that one, and I was like, "This is a freaking ride, bro."
I didn't leave. I finished it.
Oh,
But
God.
when I walked out of the theater after it was done, I was like, I'm mad I saw that movie.
It was not great. I will say the 4D added a new element with like shit all over your feet and wind everywhere. That was interesting.
Yeah. Even Eternals, I was like, it wasn't great, but whatever. Should have been a TV show. But I wasn't like Quantumania, I was like almost viscerally upset because I was like, you have wasted Kang as a character. This was the worst possible way to introduce him into a movie. The writing was truly terrible. The storyline was just basic, and I enjoyed the first two Ant-Man movies, so I was kind of mad.
Well, Captain America was fun in the sense that like you got to see that Sam can lead his own movie, and I found myself reassuring myself like several times throughout the movie, like, oh, this is crazy seeing Anthony Mackie like lead a Marvel movie. Like that's really kind of cool and impressive, and I'm excited for the future. You got freaking what's the movie come out in May? Oh my God, the team up with
It's coming out in May.
Oh my God, the Bucky and all them and
Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts, yes. I almost said Expendables.
I mean, like Marvel Expendables, kind of.
It is Marvel Expendables, so yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, should be.
I don't have fatigue. A lot of people have Marvel fatigue, and I'm like, cool, don't go. I'm having a great time.
I still go, but I here's Expendables spoiled up a little bit of fatigue, but I still see them. So this is the first Marvel movie that I have not seen opening weekend. I think since maybe since Avengers. So
okay,
like the first. Avengers.
Did you see Nick just put Expendables 4 in the chat? And I was like, who are you kidding? I saw Expendables 4. Yeah, and he was like, oh, there's only. I thought there was only 3. It's like, no. I watched all 3 so I could go see the 4th.
Yeah. I saw the first one. I think it was okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Let's talk Sporting Kansas City soccer.
Oh yeah,
because we finally have a result to talk about. Now, before we get into the fact that we have a result to talk about, for the first 60 minutes of this game, I will say, did not seem like we were going to have a result to talk about. In fact, I started seeing, and we'll talk about the goals that were given up, etc., but I started seeing discourse online, not from sporting fans, but from legitimate journalists like Jeff Ruder of The Athletic, start questioning how long will Peter Vermees be around. Like this was the first time that I had seen it break out of the SKC fanatic bubble to actual like credible journalists quoting stats about how long this has been going on and being like, this is reaching a breaking point. And so that was pretty interesting for me because we knew going into this game that Minnesota was a pretty decent team. We knew that we had lost to them in the preseason, which doesn't mean a whole lot, but I don't think either of us necessarily had much reason to expect that there was going to be anything meaningfully different on the field for Sporting Kansas City from the last few weeks to this game, at least based on what they had shown. I think we were sort of like, this may not go well.
Yeah, I mean, there is a sense of going to these games and not having that sheer excitement that normally used to come with going to these games. And that's a shitty feeling. And at what point do you, God damn, dude, I know a lot of people have done this and I could be on that same boat, but like, at what point do you stop renewing your season tickets and just buy last minute and go to a game? Because ideally it's a money thing. And what does getting season tickets offer you in that sense?
Yeah.
What is the advantage? I mean, talk to me. I think the benefits are having the same seat every game. Okay, that's something. But like you've done all the renewal rewards. If you like pay in full right off the bat, like you get a special reward. Done them all.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, in what case? In what sense is there to? What's the benefit from it?
Yeah, I mean, it is a good question, and this is something that is not just a Sporting Kansas City question. I mean, this is a question that sports teams wrestle with across competitions,
Sure.
across leagues, across professional and college. My dad just gave up his season tickets to USC football that he's had for 2 years.
What brought that decision?
It just finally got more expensive than it was worth for him.
Finally hit. Something clicked.
Team not performing in the way that you want it to for a number of years, and then the tickets keep going up every year. And then on top of that, the biggest difference I would say between college athletics and professional athletics is for a lot of college programs, if you want to be a season ticket holder, you also have to be a donor at a certain level. So it's not just the cost of like, oh, the ticket's $120 per ticket per game. It's like, well, yeah, it's $120 per ticket per game plus however many, whatever level of donation you have to give to even be eligible to buy those tickets in the first place. And he was just like, I can't justify it anymore. And instead he's like, I can pick and choose, 3-4 games a year that I want to go to, buy them on the secondary market, probably get better seats and pay less than I was before. So
that's where I'm at. That's what I'm saying about sporting, dude. I think that's a real possibility.
Yeah. And I was actually just talking to somebody at the Current game on Saturday, speaking of the Current, where they were saying that they had talked to some fans in the team store because they were sort of posting up in there, just talking to fans, getting a vibe. And there were more than a couple of fans who had said that they had previously been Sporting Kansas City season ticket holders, dropped those and bought up some Current season tickets because they were like, I wasn't having as good of a time over there. I saw how much fun people were having here last year. I wanted to come check it out. So, and this person in particular was buying a Tamla Chewinga jersey, and he's like, I don't actually even know who this player is. I just asked them whose jersey should I buy, and they said number 6 Chewinga. So I bought one.
That's amazing, dude. That's full fandom right there. Like, hey, who should I get? Okay, you got it. I don't know who it is, but I'll learn them.
Well, you learned 3 minutes and 13 seconds into the game.
You learned real fast.
But I do.
Chip didn't even make it, bro. Chip didn't even make it into the stadium by the time that first goal happened because parking was.
I know you'll talk about it. The goal was great. The pass from Dabinia might have been better, but
sure.
It's just there is a fan width problem, and Sporting unfortunately have had a couple of years of being down. They've started off a couple of their first competitive home matches here with really bad weather, which doesn't help. And so it was interesting because I would say that the stadium was maybe half full, maybe a little bit more than half full at kickoff, but it was not much more than half full. And by the time that third goal was scored just after halftime, I would say another 25% of the stadium, left. And so maybe by the end of the game, there was 5,000 people still there. I mean, it's just.
I know that I left. I plan on leaving early anyways because I was on a walker, so I was going to do that. But I left earlier than planned because I was like, holy shit, dude. I can't believe I waited through halftime to see this like third goal.
You text. So it's 2-0 at halftime, right? And the first goal, I guess we might as well just talk about it here. It's Hassani Dotson. And look, there's nothing Pulse Camp can do here. I mean, this is stupid. But the most frustrating part of it is it's not a set piece goal. But again, it started from a set piece because Dane St. Clair, he hits this from a set piece just on the Minnesota side of the half line.
I couldn't believe that, by the way. I saw that and I go, what the hell's happening here? The goalkeeper's taking the set piece? What is happening?
Right.
Well, it worked out for him.
Well, it's because, they wanted to send everybody forward. And again, the problem with Sporting KC's set piece defending is they can't clear the ball out when it's in danger. So the ball's bouncing around. Hassani Dotson gets it just outside the box. And look, I'm not going to blame Pulse Camp at all for this. Hassani Dotson hits it on the volley. An absolute screamer, Golazzo, worldly, whatever you want to call it, up into the top left corner. There's literally nothing Pulse Camp can do about this. The issue is Sporting have to figure out a way to not let that happen in the first place. Clear the ball of danger.
Not even clear the ball, but like that guy shouldn't have been open to receive that ball. Like how come no one was out there on him? Everyone's just kind of watching the ball in the air like they're watching a hot air balloon or something.
Again, I'm not trying to fault him a couple weeks in a row, but so there's a lot of defenders who are in the box. Manu's there trying to win a header, and Eric Tommy's just kind of standing in space, but not really on anybody.
Everyone's just kind of standing around, man. I don't get that. But again, what are you gonna do if your pulls cap? Like this goal was insane. I started laughing immediately. Like we had Minnesota fans all around us, and I was just like, like this is so stupid. Here we go again.
That's a quality of a goal. Well, look, Hassani Dotson, he can attempt that shot 100 times, and probably 98 times he's skying it.
Did that win goal of the week by chance?
It should. If it didn't, I don't know. I know.
I haven't heard.
Tanny Oluwaseyi won Player of the Match Day for Minnesota. So with his brace, but
Oluwaseyi, is that how you say that?
Is that how you say it? I'm not sure. I said Oluwaseyi because that's how, phonetically, that's how where he looks. But I'm honestly not sure, unfortunately. So my apologies to Tanny. But
we're voting for goal of the match day, by the way. Still,
I'm sure that one's up for it. It has to be.
Well, where do you even?
Let me ask you this: if you're looking, is the stupid Messi goal on there where he saw it?
No, it's not. But the Dotson goal has 57% of the votes. The next closest one is 21, so it should definitely win.
Honestly, but so they get that, and okay, we're down 1-0. Not good. Boos are ringing out a little bit, and then in the 31st minute, sort of off the counter against the run of play, just a really good little interplay here, and Tanny just has a wide open tap in, an absolutely gorgeous cross from Handwali. I think it's Hassani Dotson. He even does this little give and go with, and then Rado can't get back. Logan and Dembe is way too far up the field and kind of slows down in his track back. I'm not really sure why he does. So he's not back there to help, which causes Radia basically have to be covering left back, which causes Fernandez to have to slide over, which causes Jake to have to slide over. Volater's also up the field. So you have two of the defenders who are nowhere to be found, which leaves Tanny wide open for the tap-in. Again, just poor positioning from the defense. Now it's 2-0 going into halftime. And you text me at halftime. This is what I was leading to. If they score a third goal, I'm leaving.
I was like, we're planning to leave about the 75th minute anyways. It is what it is, man. I'm on a walker. I can't be staying out there like that. Also, sitting on hard chairs. I wish the handicap section had better chairs. But I get this little nerve pain in my glute, this shooting pain. I'm like, I fucking hate this. Anyways, it's neither here nor there. I tell you that. God dang. I'm like, what is this conversation at halftime going to be like? It's got to be something super motivational. They're going to come out firing on all cylinders, and they score, bro. We had the kickoff, and they score in 30 seconds. I couldn't believe it.
I've never seen this where the highlight for this goal in the 46th minute on MLSsoccer.com starts with the kickoff.
Starts with our kickoff.
But it's Sporting Kansas City kicking the ball off. And
how does that make sense?
And it's the orange ball at this point because we got the orange ball because it started snowing.
Why? You could still see the ball. There was no snow on the ground. It wasn't cold enough to stick.
I think at one point, I'm guessing it was because the snowflakes that were falling were thick enough that maybe it was just obscuring the ball enough, even though it wasn't sticking on the ground. Visibility was weird. And I only say that because when I was driving back home after the game, obviously the storm had moved out of the stadium's area, but I caught up to the storm driving east back to Lee Summit, and visibility sucked driving through it. Even though it wasn't sticking on the ground, I was like, I kind of had to slow down and be like, I need to make sure I don't crash into something because I couldn't see.
Bro, we hit Topeka. After we got past Lawrence, Topeka looks like it didn't even get any precipitation. It was crazy, but visibility was so bad heading home.
Yeah, so I think that's why they pulled out the orange ball. But because we have the orange ball, we see exactly what happens here. It's Eric Tommy with the ball. He tries to pass it to Memo, I think, who checked in at halftime for Zoran Basong. It's not a well hit ball, but Memo, I don't know if he thought somebody else was there or what. He doesn't chase it down. Minnesota gets it. Defense is all sorts of discombobulated, and again, a little wide open cross to Tanny, who taps it in. It's 3-0, 20 seconds into the second half, and that's where I think.
Didn't you see the whole stadium just get up?
Oh, it was it was an exodus of people.
And as I'm leaving, I hear the Cauldron's brand new chant, Don't leave till we score a goal.
Oh no!
I couldn't believe that. I was like, what has this thing come to?
But it was
when it's weird now, right? Kind of different.
Yeah, it's not what it was. I'll say that.
It's interesting.
They get their third goal, and at this point, there's no reason to think Sporting are getting a result out of this. You're hoping it doesn't get any worse, and this is when I start seeing the online discourse of like, how long feasibly can this go? I know they've talked about 3-window rebuild, but there does come a breaking point. And I started looking at the schedule, and I'm like, okay, let's say they lose here to Minnesota. You got LAFC coming up next. They're coming to town on Saturday. They're not great, but they're a team that is always dangerous. Then on the road to FC Dallas, and then back home to St. Louis. I started thinking out if Sporting if they would have lost to Minnesota, lose to LAFC, lose on the road to FC Dallas, and come back and lose to St. Louis at home. It was that St. Louis game where I thought that might be the breaking point for ownership. But
no, I feel you. And if you're anything like me, you're fortunate enough to not drive yourself home, so I get to watch the rest of this shit show in my car. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm putting it on my phone, but here we go.
Yeah, because they score, and I immediately text you, and I was like, "Oh, bye."
You did. You said bye. I was like, I hate the way that sounds right now. Like I hate that you said that to me.
I don't know how long I wasn't trying to be a smart ass, but I just was like, oh,
I know. You said it immediately though. I was just like, oh God, I'm so mad. Fuck you, Jimmy.
I don't know how long you stuck around after that, but
I was in the bathroom literally getting ready to bounce.
Daniel Shalhoub and Tim Leibold check in, and they kind of switched up the intensity of this game a little bit.
Sure did.
And Tim Leibold in the 68th minute gets a ball around midfield. And what have I been clamoring for Radia to do all this time? I know they don't play different positions, but get the ball and look up and see what you can see. Tim gets the ball, and instead of playing it back to Volader or playing it to Radia or whatnot, he lifts his head up, and Daniel makes a hell of a run. Tim gives a hell of a ball, and Daniel with this little right-footed toe poke taps the ball in. It's the 60th minute. Suddenly it's 3-1. Still not expecting a result out of this, but I'm like, okay, at least there's fight from somebody, because we hadn't seen that really.
It was pretty dope, actually. The way he didn't even take a touch, like it just took one bounce and then he just boom.
It was a class goal.
It was class act. I couldn't believe it happened that way. It was amazing.
Yeah, and Tim, I have my concerns about Tim Leibold defensively, but he does have the ability to bring a quality from the back line into the attack, and that's what we needed at that moment. And it was a beautiful, well-touched ball from Daniel Shalhoub, and so that's good. I'm sitting next to Daniel Sperry in the press box at this point. He goes, if Sporting can get another quick goal here, things might get interesting. And it was not 4 minutes later where Shapi Suleimanov has the ball, who, by the way, love the intensity that Shapi plays with. He drives to the end line, sends in a cross into a dangerous spot where Dion was just standing there. And I know people are going to be like, well, it was an own goal, it was a fluke goal. But here's the thing. He sends in a hard, low cross into a crowded box. Sometimes that's all you got to do. And if Duggan doesn't get a foot to that, it's going to go right to Dion Jolic, who probably taps it in anyway. So, yeah, sure, it's an own goal. But now suddenly, in the span of 4 minutes, it goes from 3-0 to 3-2.
It's like, okay, momentum's definitely on our side here, and that's, no one likes to see that. My biggest regret, it's not because I missed the goals in person. Like, that's okay. I still saw the goals on my phone, my humongous, I call it my iPad mini, the big old phones now. But I'm more sad that I missed the Minnesota fan reactions to their collapse, because they were so high, dude. One kid looking like Justin Bieber down up front. He's heckling Polskamp for getting a big old gash in his face. And I'm like, hold up now. This dude's like legitimately hurt. Shut your mouth, Stranger Things. Like, I was so upset.
That did happen in the first half, which we didn't talk about. Polskamp took a fucking knee to the head.
Was it a knee?
What you can see on the replay, there's an angle from behind the goal where, he just takes a knee. And I thought it was horrible. I was worried about a concussion, honestly. Obviously, they must have gone through the protocol. He didn't have it. But he needed stitches. In the post game, we were in the locker room. cheek's still bleeding. He's got like this big old bandage on it. We're talking to him. He's like, yeah, they wanted to give me stitches at halftime. I told him no, just glue it. So they glued it at halftime. And then he was like, but I can show you here.
Told him no?
Yeah. He was like, no stitches now. I need to play.
Why? Why not stitches?
You
can still play.
I guess he just didn't want to deal with it. He was like, I'm about to go get stitches right now. But he didn't do it. But then he goes, but then I also have this. And he opens his mouth and he goes, I think he said Invisalign. He goes, now I got this like permanent metal bar retainer thing. And it snapped. And there was like a piece of sharp metal like sticking up in his mouth that he could like move around. And he's like, I need to find somebody with pliers who can like break it off until I can go to a orthodontist and get this fixed.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Being a goalkeeper sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, they get their ass beat. I hate this. Oh my God, poor guy.
It was interesting because he got his ass beat with that. But what Peter pointed this out, after Sporting scored this, if you notice after the first goal, it's a good goal. Nobody in Sporting goes to grab the ball. They score the goal. They're like, and they start running back. They even at that moment, it didn't feel like there was much of a belief that like we're going to get a result out of this. When that second goal goes in 4 minutes later, Daniel Shalhoub sprints into the net, grabs the ball, and then sprints back to the center circle. There was a visceral change in the mentality of this team with that second goal of we're going to get something out of it.
That was the own goal, right? That second goal?
Yeah, technically it was an own goal, but still, I don't like...
But set up by Shoppy there on the side. I mean, that guy is working, man.
Set up by Shoppy, set up on his right foot too, which is good because last game he was working so hard to get every single thing on his left foot. I was like, okay, you gotta balance that out a little bit more.
Sure.
But I don't like people taking away and dismissing that goal as a fluke or whatnot, because sure, technically it's an own goal, but
it was created.
It was created by solid effort from Shoppy. He sent the ball into a dangerous spot. And sometimes in soccer, that's what you got to do. You send the ball. I mean, honestly, that's what happened with Hassani Dotson's first goal anyway. You send the ball into a dangerous spot, you see what happens, and then you just take your shot.
Sometimes, like, chaos happens, dude, and the ball just goes in. It's wild.
So that was awesome. And then about 10 minutes later, in the 80th minute, so I guess 8 minutes later technically, again, there was just a different mentality defensively. And Daniel Shalhoub, I believe, or no, I think it was actually Manu Garcia, pokes the ball away defensively, and then the ball falls to Dejan Jovlic, who takes one little touch, gets it on his right foot, and then he sends it off the inside of the far post. It bounces back across the face of goal. Suddenly it's the 80th minute, and this is a 3-3 tie. And not only are we thinking we might get a draw out of this, Sporting fans started thinking we might fucking win this game.
I thought we were going to give it up at first because there was literally a time where a Minnesota player had an actual like sitter right in front of goal. Goalkeeper's out. There's like a defender in net, and he skies it over and like collapses in his hands. And I'm like, bro, you would have won the game right there. Mm-hmm. Not only that, there was also a call for a handball on Joaquin.
Oh, that was a bullshit penalty call.
Oh no, it was, but like it did. VR worked. They went to VAR.
Yes.
And they figured it out. But like to call it in the moment, like that's, I don't know. I love seeing when VAR works, man.
I mean, I had a really good angle of that from the press box because Joaquin slid and it bounced square off his face. And so when the referee points to the spot, we were all like, hold on. Like that was very.
He looks at the ref and he was doing this.
Yeah.
He was like hitting his chin or something. Like it hit me in the chin, bro.
And even still, when he slid, you can kind of see he's like holding his arms kind of like his
all you can do,
flailing around. He was holding it inside, and even still, it still didn't hit. It just hit off his face. So we see the replay, and never have I been more confident that a call was going to get overturned. And to the process's credit, there's a lot of complaints about VAR, but like you said, that was the fastest signal to go review it and the fastest decision to overturn a call I think I've seen yet since VAR was implemented into MLS.
It was great, man. I was nervous. I was like, holy shit, is this, they're really going to win like this? Like it was crazy.
Now, then 8 minutes of stoppage time is shown. This is where it got a little interesting because Pulskamp almost decided he was going to slow the game down like Sporting were playing for the draw. A lot of people were upset. I don't know if you could see on the broadcast when you were watching. He's moseying back, taking his time. The Cauldron is like being like, hurry up, get up, go. Like, what are we doing? And even Peter Vermees after the game, he talked about, it shows this team is fighting, and that part's very good. I'm most disappointed at the end. After we tied, we took our foot off the gas. So that's something to clean up. But when it's all said and done, Sporting got a result.
Yeah, man, they got a point, and I guess that's all that. It's all you can ask for when you're down 3-0. Like, what do you say about it?
I actually I saw Chip on Instagram. He had put up something after the current game, and then like a picture of the Sporting game. He was there, and he's like, "Please do something." And so, like, after the game, I replied to the story, and I was like, "They kind of did something." And what he said, I don't think I'm betraying any confidences here, but he said, "For all the ties that felt like losses, this one felt like a win. I haven't seen the Cauldron more amped in a long time."
Yeah.
So, now, I guess the question is, do you think Sporting KC can capitalize on this and actually turn it into something?
Why not try against an amazing LAFC team coming to town? Who did get spanked though by Seattle at one point?
They've had some issues, and they're sort of in this weird sort of, they're on a 3-game losing streak across all competitions. They got
spanked by Seattle at the right time.
They lost to Austin at home. They've been sort of focusing on the Champions Cup. So maybe, I don't know. But what Peter said after the game is, he goes, "Am I happy with the results? I'm very happy with the mentality to come back. That part was good. I think we deserved a lot more from the first half, but you don't deserve it when you give up the 2 goals that we did. We come out of time and did the same thing. We can't do that on a regular basis. You can't keep chasing games."
You mentioned Chip earlier. Do you want me to read his stuff?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, as you mentioned, he did say, "For all the draws that feel like losses, this one felt like a win."
Oh, there you go.
Our first points of the season coming from the most unlikely of places. After going 67 full minutes without much to say for the offense, SKC really just smashed the fuck it button and pulled 3 goals out of a 0.4 XG for the game, and created the first time in club history where SKC overcame a 3-goal deficit to get any points. The last time we came back from 2 goals down to get a point was in April of 2019, when Namath and Gutierrez each got a brace to tie 4-4 against the New England Revs after starting down 3-1. Especially considering that SKC only had 2 shots in all of the first half, neither of which were on frame. Coming out in the second half with more intensity was something the fan base needed. And then we let them score 20-some seconds into second half after we kicked off. When it comes to the shots put out by SKC, nothing got above 0.1 XG until Shallowy's goal, and that all came from a cutting run and a perfectly placed ball. In this game alone, we have 2 goals which are a direct result of strain from the offensive plan. Shallowy making the cut towards goal, and Shoppy pulling a Johnny Russell dribble penetration and having a go. But that's what it is, and that's what we need. Attempts. Throw timidity to the wind and stop waiting for the perfect shot. For a team that has averaged almost 60% possession for the season, we let the defense set up every time we pass the ball around at midfield. From there, any shot will just be hammered into traffic and likely blocked by someone other than the goalie, or across to one SKC player in a sea of 3 or more defenders. Even with his goal, Joveljic had all of 28 touches for the 90 minutes. And for the goal he did net us, it was a play in traffic, and he was able to navigate around the defenders. If nothing else, getting him the ball and involving him in the attack more will increase the payoff. Yes, I'm excited about us getting our first point of the season. Yes, I'm excited that we showed signs of life when we had given up 3 goals and had every opportunity to just lay down and let the game end. I hope that this game can boost the confidence of the team. I think that the longer we go into the season without a win, the more it has to put the pressure on, as we've seen the last few seasons. And now we have LAFC at home next week, who is coming off their second straight loss, which included a 5-2 thumping at Seattle.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you, Chip.
Thank you, Chip. There's a real opportunity here. Now, I'm interested to see what the formation or what the lineup looks like on Saturday, because there's a couple things. Will we now? Eric Tommy's the captain, right? He's been playing on the left wing. Part of me wonders if he's sort of the captain by default because Peter said before the season, like, nobody's really taken it yet. Eric is maybe the most experienced player on the team who's in the starting lineup, so I think he might have it. But I don't know that he's been all that great on the wing up until this point. Daniel comes in, makes a difference. Do we see Peter switch something up? And do we see Tommy relegated to the bench and Daniel comes in? I think I'm reading some tea leaves here, but I asked Peter in the postgame about Daniel coming off the bench and still having that mentality to score.
I heard you say mentality. You're just fishing for shit because you wanted him to be like, mentality? That's my guy, using my word.
I wasn't going for that, but that is fun. But it's interesting the way he started this answer, and then I'm going to marry it with what Daniel said after the game. So I said, I was trying to tee him up as like a compliment for Daniel to be like, hey, he hasn't been starting, but he came in, didn't let it get to him, and he was the difference maker. So he starts this by going, everybody on this roster, like any other time on this team, if you want to be upset with me because you're not playing or not playing the position you want to, that's fine. So it's interesting that I asked him about Daniel, and he starts the answer with, oh, if you want to be mad at me that you're not playing, you can be mad at me, which makes me wonder if obviously...
Who said anything?
Right. I'm like, okay, I didn't ask him about being mad. But that makes me wonder, like, there must be something there of like, because Daniel's used to starting. Something's out. So he goes, but you always have to be prepared for when you come in. And as I said, all the guys that came off the bench were very good, very positive. It's not always going to fall your way. This is the way sports are. When you get called upon, you have to be ready to perform. So I was like, oh, that's interesting.
What kind of weird insecurity is that about when you ask nothing of the sort? And he's like, oh, yeah, something completely different.
Well, but then I'm talking to Daniel Shalloway after the game, and he's normally a pretty jovial guy. He's giving answers, giving long answers. And so I asked him, I was like, obviously in years past, you've been typically in the starting lineup for whatever reason. You've been coming off the bench this year, but you came in and Peter talked about the importance of you being able to step in at that moment, no matter what, take advantage of it. And you were the reason for this difference. So can you just talk about sort of that mentality for you and what it means, even though you may not be starting in the way you want to, but still are able to show up in those big moments? And his answer was very terse. And he just goes, we're all professionals. I'm just going to do my part, and then hopefully it will change and I'll be in the lineup again. And that's all he said about it. And then he went back to like talking. So I'm maybe recklessly speculating a little bit here, reading between some lines, but between Peter's like, hey, if somebody's going to be mad at me because they're not playing, then that's fine. I can deal with it. And then with him and with Daniel sort of just being a little bit more terse with that answer, I think there might be something there.
Weird.
But I don't hate that he's upset that he's not playing, because I think as a professional athlete, you want to be confident in your abilities. And if he was just like, oh, I'm okay being a bench player, like, I think that would be, that's not the mentality. Keep saying that word now, but that's not what I would want him to have. But all that is to say, I'm curious to now see if Daniel might find his way, depending on how practice goes this week, into the starting lineup on Saturday.
I do like having Eric on the field, but I wish he was back in midfield, man. I liked what he brought there,
Well, that's a good point too, and leads me to my next thought, because we have just learned earlier in the day when we're recording that Zoran Basong has been called up to be with the Canadian men's national team to play in the CONCACAF Nations League games that are happening around this game this weekend.
But also, color me surprised that he's even been starting in the midfield. Basong.
I think he's been starting because Jake can't start in the midfield because we have no outside backs available.
Hey, and now you got Kyrie Shelton getting healthy again. He got his first minutes of the year this past game, man.
So there's two options I can think of here for Saturday. A few options, but Daniel starts on the left wing. Tommy drops back to the midfield because Zoran's gone. So you sort of have a dual 8 situation between Tommy and Manu, and Jake is still playing right back. Or if Kyrie's healthy enough to at least go, let's say, a half at right back, start Kyrie in the first half at right back, have Daniel and or Tommy on the left wing, and then put Jake Davis in the midfield where he belongs in place of Zoran Basong. And I think that, that might be interesting to see. Because Peter said himself when he was asked about Kyrie, he said, we got him in because we wanted to get some more height, especially with all the set pieces. And then the other thing is we wanted to get him back on because at the end of the day, we're taking some real attributes away from Jake Davis when he's in the midfield. So he wants Jake to go back into the midfield. So
sounds that way.
It'll be interesting. But Zoran will be gone. Dejan Joveljic, he was selected to Team of the Match Day. I think that's our first player this year that was selected to Team of the Match Day.
On the bench, but it still counts.
Still counts. And yes, now Sporting KC take on LAFC. They're 2-2-0 this year, so they're good, but they've been in sort of a down form over the last handful of competitive games, and this is a test for this Sporting Kansas City team. Can you build on it? Can you score first at home? Can you not go down multiple goals so you're chasing a game? And we'll see. I think this is certainly an important match for Sporting to not just get a result out of, but win, to try to string together some positive results here.
Yeah, man. We'll see what happens. It's not going to get easy. The only thing that'll be good about the game will be it'll be a little warmer. You know,
it will be warmer. Shouldn't be random snowstorms that pop up. But this Minnesota game was the first of a 5-game stretch where we have 4 out of 5 at home. So then there's LAFC at home, on the road against Dallas, but then back home for 2 more games against St. Louis and Portland. Dallas, St. Louis, Portland, and honestly, even LAFC. Those are all beatable teams right now.
Sure.
You have to get, if there are 12 points available up for grabs in those games, if you can get 8 out of 12 points, I'd sign up for that right now. If you go 2 wins, 2 draws over the next 4 games, that is significant progress over where we could be. If you can somehow get 9 points or more out of those next 4 games, then you're right back into the thick of things in a league where almost more than 2/3 of the teams make the playoffs.
Your optimism is fun. We'll see if it's poorly placed here.
I'm not saying I expect it to happen.
Yeah.
I'm just saying when you talk to the players and they're like, we haven't lost hope. This is a new team, new players. I mean, I think it was Dion who even was like, I understand that like the last couple of years things haven't gone well. He was like, but we're new players who are here and believe in this, and we're trying to build our chemistry and get together so we can get this thing going.
You can't win a game by giving up 3 goals.
You can't.
It's just not going to happen. You can't come back like that. I mean, yeah, we salvaged a point, which is crazy. Like the probability of that happening was so low at halftime, so low. And I just was laughing. I was like, good. I'm glad you guys still believe in yourselves, because you're losing us. We don't really believe in you right now.
I think, I don't remember where it was, because I always have the Apple broadcast going on my laptop so I can like rewind and see replays and such. But I think it was after their 3rd goal where they put up their like little win probability graphic, win-loss draw probability graphic, and it said that Sporting had like a 0.8% win probability, under a 5% draw probability, and Minnesota at that time had like a 95.6% win probability.
Just think about this, folks. As bad as it is to be a fan sometimes, you could not be feeling half as bad as Minnesota fans felt in that moment.
Yeah. I had a meme all fired up and ready to go to, because there was a shot of like Peter Vermees looking at the iPad to see what went wrong after the goal, and Minnesota tweeted out like, the iPad hates to see us coming, because I think it might have been against Minnesota when Peter Vermees he held up the iPad after the game. I still have the picture of Peter Vermees in the press conference holding up the iPad. So I had Photoshop ready to go. If Sporting Kansas City won this game, I was half a second away from clipping the final score, throwing it on the iPad and quote tweeting Minnesota and be like, iPad came back. But I didn't get it.
That'd have been great. That would have been great.
I wasn't going to do it for a draw. So.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't have either. I would have been like, come on, let's not celebrate draws like that.
But I don't know, man. It'll, like I said, Reddit was weirdly more positive than I thought they would be. I want to be clear. I do not think this solves or absolves all of the criticism around this club. This is one draw in a game where you already went down 3-0 to start. There are a lot of things that are still left to fix. But sometimes it just takes something like this to spark something in the attack. And if we start seeing more success in the attack, then that's about all I can ask for at this moment.
If we're scoring goals now, then clean up your defense, and we got a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Let's see what the hell happens.
Yeah. So Outside of Sporting Kansas City, was there anything else that really caught your eye from around the league this week? I mean, I guess Seattle, they lost to St. Louis, and they lost Paul Arriola to an ACL injury. He's probably done for the year.
Holy shit, I didn't see that.
And what's also interesting is right before the game, like 15 minutes before the lineups came out, St. Louis announced that Roman Berkey broke his hand.
Holy shit.
It's not good for a goalkeeper to have a broken hand.
Not at all.
He apparently broke it in practice on Friday, and there's some question about whether they'll get in trouble now because they didn't report it in the final injury report.
Wow.
But so there may be an opportunity in a couple weeks when we play St. Louis at home. But I don't know. Is there any other result?
Does that get you fined or something?
You're not allowed to hide injuries in an injury report, which is why Messi was on the bench last game, and because people had started complaining that Messi was not appearing on injury reports, but he was also not traveling with the team. So they were like, hey, this is a violation of rules. If he's hurt and he's not on the injury report, that's a violation. So they put him on the bench, and people theorize, well, he's on the bench, so he's not hurt, even if he's not necessarily going to play. But yes, it'll be interesting to see if St. Louis gets fined if it's determined that they did not report the injury the way they were supposed to.
Interesting.
But I don't know. I think the most interesting result otherwise is Austin beating LAFC in LA.
Oh, yeah.
Surprising to me.
Ilya beating his old team.
Mm-hmm. So, and there was some wild stuff in the Nashville-Philly game on Sunday. VAR didn't award a penalty and then to one team and did end up awarding a penalty to the other team that was a little softer. So there's still all sorts of issues. But you got anything else you want to talk about with our good listeners?
No, dude. That's it.
Awesome. Well, it was a lot more fun to talk about a game where SKC just didn't lose for the 11th straight time.
It's getting more fun.
So let's hope that we can, even though it was a draw, imagine if we get a victory pod. What were you?
Oh, holy shit.
Forgot what it feels like. But if you do want to know what a victory pod feels like, go listen to Currently in a couple days over on the podcast network, because Dan and Chris will break down everything the KC Current, and that team's good. So make sure you leave us that 5-star rating and review. We'll go ahead and read those here on air. Make sure you follow us on social at NoOtherPod, at Dan Kooser, at JCMac03. Send us an email, nootherpod@gmail.com, and check us out on YouTube, KCSN Soccer, or via the Kansas City Sports Network app. But until next time, he's Dan, I'm Jimmy. We'll catch y'all later. See ya.
Peace out.